Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode where we will be diving into the epic and unforgettable short stories The Monkey's Paw by W. W. Jacobs and The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. These stories are creepy, yes, but more importantly, they deal with something deeply human of how people process grief and madness. Today, I want to explore how both stories use unreliable narrators to show how personal experiences, especially grief and isolation, can distort reality. In both The Monkey's Paw and The Yellow Wallpaper, the narrators can't be fully trusted, and that helps us understand grief and madness. Jacobs shows grief as something that comes from the outside, almost like a scary force, while Gilman shows it as something happening inside the mind, like the brain is the haunted house. Let's get into it. As I said, in both stories, the narrators can't be fully trusted. In The Yellow Wallpaper, the narrator is a woman suffering from postpartum depression or maybe something more serious, who is kept in a room by her husband because he says it will help her rest and get better. She slowly starts to lose her mind, but because we only read what she writes in her journal, we don't know what's real and what's not. She says, I lie here on this great immovable bed. It's nailed down. I believe and follow that patterns about by the hour. Her focus on the wallpaper shows that her thoughts are becoming more confused and unhealthier. In contrast, The Monkey's Paw has a third person narrator, but Mr. and Mrs. White's action, especially after the death of their son Herbert, are driven by grief and depression. They believe in the supernatural power of the paw, and their grief clouds their judgment. When Mrs. White demands her son be brought back to life, we feel the horror of what grief can do. The narrator never confirms what's at the door. It just might be Herbert, but we are never told for sure. That ambiguity makes us question everything. So, in both stories, we are unsure what's real, but for different reasons. Grief is powerful in both stories, but it's portrayed very differently. In The Monkey's Paw, grief is direct. The death of Herbert devastates the parents, especially the mother. She says, Bring him back. Do you think I fear the child I have nursed? Her grief drives her to make a horrifying wish. The story teaches a lesson. Trying to change fate can lead to something terrible. In The Yellow Wallpaper, grief is more internal. She feels like she has lost her freedom, her voice, and maybe even who she is as a mother. She feels trapped, not listened to, and treated like a child. At one point, she says, John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. That short sentence shows how alone and powerless she feels. So while Jacobs shows grief as a strong feelings after losing someone, Gilman shows it as slowly losing yourself because of being controlled by men. Madness also looks very different in the two stories. In The Yellow Wallpaper, it's psychological. The narrator's descent is gradual, believable, and terrifying because it feels so real. She believes there is a woman trapped in the wallpaper, and eventually she becomes that woman. She says, I have pulled off most of the papers, so you can't put me back. That single sentence means she feels like she has broken free from control and can't be forced back into her old trapped life. She cries at the end, not out of evil, but because she is broken. It's haunting and deeply sad, showing how much she has suffered. In The Monkey's Paw, madness is tied into supernatural belief. Mr. White makes first wish mostly out of curiosity. But after Herbert dies, the line between reality and fantasy blurs. The mother's grief pushed them toward madness. The horror is external, a cursed object, a mysterious knocking at the door, but it's powered by internal pain. So Gilman shows madness from the inside out, while Jacobs shows it from the outside in. So, what's the takeaway here? Both stories use unreliable narrators to make us question what's real, and that uncertainty mirrors the characters' emotional states. Grief and madness can make the world feel unreal, and both Gilman and Jacobs captured that in very different but powerful ways. And as a reader, my own experiences shaped how I saw the characters. I found the yellow wallpaper especially heartbreaking. Maybe because I have seen how isolation and being ignored can wear someone down. In the end, both stories show that madness does not just happen for no reason. It often comes from being sad, hurt, or not listened to. Thanks for listening.